Tune in to the Mean Machine Radio Show with Gregory Joseph on New Jersey, 88.6 WGAT. Your ultimate destination for real people, real life, and pop culture discussions. Join us for insightful conversations, special guests, and a lot of fun every week. Don't miss out on the excitement. Listen to the Mean Machine Radio Show. Baby.
All right, as he rock. Me, baby, it is your Friday. Thank you very much. I know what day it is. It's always cloudy with a chance of meatballs because that is Jersey. Welcome to the Mean Machine Radio Show. I am Gregory Joseph, your hostess with the mostest there, and we have a very special guest this evening. And due to technical difficulties last time, I figured I would say that first. And well, he was very, very nice to come back and be very patient. And so now we're good to go. And before we lose him on the satellite feed out in Los Angeles, and we're here on the New York side, let's just bring him in without any further fondue. So, by the way, he is and I already told him this. He is the 1 degree of separation from one of I should say, the ultimate comedian, showman, and just entertainer in general. A hero of mine was a man named Groucho Marx. And I don't think anyone will ever be able to touch him. I mean, he's just on a level by himself. Well, that particular man who unfortunately passed in 1977, I was a little kid, but prior to that, the last few years of his life, his personal secretary, his confidant, and just around him all the time, someone that would know the ins and outs and all the stuff that you think you know and that you probably don't know. His name is Mr. Steve Stoliar, and he is with us via satellite right now from Los Angeles. So let's bring Steve in, and there he is. Good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm fine. How about yourself, Greg?
I'm good. If I was doing any better, I'd be the same. So I guess we're good to go.
Okay.
I appreciate.
If we're good to go, I'm going to go now.
Yeah.
All right.
Nah, I'll tell you what. And welcome back. Like you heard in your introduction there, Groucho Marx was an absolute hero of mine. I don't think but when I think wit, and I think just off the cuff, like I know people wrote for him, and we'll get to that. We'll get into all that, but he's just. I mean, if I'm in the crappiest mood ever, and I watch, I have to laugh because his puns, his mannerisms, his pantomimes, everything that he did was just
verbally and visually funny.
Yeah. I mean, not just the slapsticky kind of it, just the fact that he was way ahead of his time. I can only imagine what he would think about being in movies and stage now, but he was. I'm sure he's very sorely missed by a lot of people, including yourself. I know how close you were. But if you want to let our audience know here in the New York, New Jersey area, what type of relationship that you have, but basically just tell us like it is. The floor is yours, sir.
Well, like you, I was a big Groucho fan, and all I ever wanted to do was meet him and thank him for all the laughs. But I figured there was almost no chance of that because he was in his 80s and getting weaker due to a variety of health problems, and I was just this teenage kid. But through an extraordinary set of circumstances, I did not only get to meet him, but work for him inside his house for the last 3 years of his life. Initially 7 days a week, because I just couldn't get enough of it, because it was just this dream come true times 100. And I was his personal secretary, and I was also his archivist, put in charge of being paid money to wade ankle deep in photographs and letters and scrapbooks with reviews from the Marx Brothers vaudeville and Broadway days. Just an extraordinary, I was just so fortunate, and fortunate also because I was such an obsessive fan. Today's obsessive fans want to either marry or murder the objects of their obsessiveness. I just wanted to meet him, and I did in spades, working inside his house. And, being near my hero, getting to know him, I was always welcome at the lunch table. There was no sense that the help will eat in the kitchen. I was always welcome there. So I was privy to just remarkable conversations he had with his famous friends in front of and behind the camera. And I'm always hesitant. People will say, and this man was friends with Groucho Marx. And I kind of wince at that because I think it overstates it. And I could say that we were good friends, and there'd be so few people to be in any position to question that. But I would say I was more than just an employee. I would say he was fond of me, sort of like an uncle. And he appreciated that I knew the kind of people and subjects that he was into, that I wasn't just this kid in tennis shoes and blue jeans and a t-shirt, some pot-smoking rock and roll guy who had no idea. I mean, one of the most gratifying moments that comes to mind is when I heard him call my name from his bedroom, and I went in, and he handed me a $20 bill, and he said, "Go down to Tower Records and get me some records. You know what I like." And the idea that he knew that I knew what he liked was very gratifying. He didn't have to explain it. And the fact that I cared about George Gershwin and Robert Benchley and James Thurber. Now, these, of course, were mythic names to me, but they were friends of his. Oh, my goodness. There I am with my mutton chops. And they were made out of real mutton back then. Mutton chops and mustache and a full head of hair. That was in Groucho's backyard in November of '74, shortly after I got the job. And I felt like I was standing next to a prized marlin that I had been strapped to a chair on a boat trying to land for years. It was such a great afternoon.
I tell you what, and that's cool. Let me flash that again, because that's in '74. So this is at least almost 3 years prior to his passing. So you look happy, because I don't know if I could have been, if this man was like the way that I have him in high regard, or an idol, or whatever the case may be, or how someone felt, to be able to work with them day in and day out without him catching you staring at him or listen or laughing. I don't know how that went, but how did you get that job? I mean, that's like a dream job.
And before I tell you about before I answer that, there was one time when I was, one of the things I was in charge of was having him sign photos for fans who wanted autographs. And I was leaving his bedroom once with a stack of pictures, and I turned around and I said, on behalf of all of the fans who will never get a chance to meet you in person, thank you for doing this for all of them. There's a lot of stars that wouldn't bother with it. And he said, well, I consider it part of my job, which, here he was a legend in his 80s and failing health, but he still felt like he owed it to the, 1939 portrait of Groucho that I had him sign.
When did he sign that? He signed that late, mid
70? At 74, I took it in and I said, this one, this isn't for just a fan, this is for me. So if you could say something personal so people wouldn't think I just ran into you one day. And he said, what do you want me to say? I love you?
Personal there.
Yeah, and I said, whatever you want to say is fine. You refer to it as a dream job. In fact, in my case, it was literally, not figuratively, a dream job, because I was so obsessed with Groucho and the Marx Brothers that I would dream that I was meeting him, and they would be really vivid dreams. I remember one dream where I see him and I go up to him and I say, oh, Mr. Marx, would it be at all possible if you could, I would really, and he took a cigar out of his jacket and handed it to me, knowing that I was stammering to ask for a souvenir cigar. And then I woke up, and as the dream was dissipating and reality was sinking in, I thought, damn, it was so vivid. I was sure this time I was meeting him. It was so real. So, and I would hear stories about people saying, oh, I saw Groucho walking in the park with some friend of his or a nurse. Yes, he was with his little beret and his and I'd think, how can I be somewhere where he will be so that our paths can cross? We had heard that he liked to go to Jacopo's Pizzeria in Beverly Hills. And so my roommate Daryl and I went there once, and they had a Groucho special on the menu, but I also know that, you could have gone to Cantor's Deli and they would have an Al Jolson sandwich, and he'd been dead for decades. So it didn't. And so I said to the waitress, does Groucho really come in here? And she said, oh, yes. He was in here, let me think, yesterday, as a matter of fact. He always comes in after we open and tries to pay with $100 bill, and he knows we can't make change. He's so funny. And I thought, why is he wasting his last days on a waitress at a pizzeria? It should be me. I should be them. So the way I got the job, in a nutshell, I suppose, was there was and is a movie called Animal Crackers that the Marx Brothers made for Paramount in 1930, based on their Broadway stage hit of the same name. And when Paramount sold their movies to Universal, MCA Universal in the 50s, it was included in the package, but due to a clerical error, the copyright had expired and reverted back to the authors and composers of the original play. And Universal saw absolutely no point in spending good money to try to clear the rights to an old black and white Marx Brothers movie when they could focus on important films like Airport 75 and Downhill Racer and other forgotten films. My friends and I were all Marx Brothers fanatics, and so we thought it would have been money very well spent. But Universal needed persuading. So I was a UCLA student, and I started a committee for the re-release of Animal Crackers, and we had a table on Bruin Walk where students entered to go up towards the main part of the campus. And all the causes had a table: legalized marijuana, gay rights, end Vietnam, all sorts of, whatever was in then, some of which are still pertinent. And then there we were trying to get an old Marx Brothers movie off the shelf, and people couldn't believe Are you sure? Are you going to send these petitions to the FBI? Do we have to be registered voters? Like, no, we just want to show interest. And I was able to get in touch with this woman, Erin Fleming, who was a young actress from Canada who had started out as his secretary and had gradually wormed her way into being his manager. And as he grew older and hazier, he grew more dependent on her. So she was really in charge of his personal and professional life. And she arranged for Groucho to come to UCLA, and there were hundreds of students crushing in around us, and different print and television news crews were there to cover our cause. And Aaron said, "This is Steve Stolier. He's the one who's trying to get Animal Crackers re-released." And Groucho said, "Well, did you get it?" And I said, "Not just yet, but we're working on it." And he said, "Well, you better or I'll fire you." And I said, "I didn't realize I was working for you. How much are you paying me?" And he said, a little less than nothing. And it's like the rest of the time, my heart was trying to escape from my chest. It was beating so loud that I'm sitting next to my hero, fielding questions from the press about Animal Crackers and about how the baby boomer generation had been responsible for a renaissance of interest in the Marx Brothers because of their anarchy and thumbing their nose at authority, which dovetailed just fine into the whole protest, don't trust anyone over 30 ideology of the baby boomers.
So
and he was, huh?
I was just going to say, we're talking what? This is 1973 at this point?
74.
74.
And he was very flattered by all the attention. Someone said, one of the reporters said, "What do you think of all the students and their adoration of the Marx Brothers?" And he said, "Well, of course, I'm flattered by it. Last Halloween, 3 kids came to my dog dressed as Groucho, Harpo, and Chico." And I said, "What did you give them?" And he said, "I sent for the police." So there was still a lot. I mean, the mechanism that made him Groucho was still there, even though he had slowed and was older. One of the reporters said, "Mr. Marx, what is the purpose of your appearance here today?" "I expect to get lunch. But besides that, I may get dinner." So, we were there for a serious reason, but that didn't mean there wasn't much amusement and Groucho being Groucho. And sure enough, Universal relented and spent the money to clear the rights, and they reissued the film later in 74, and they said, "We're going to play it at the UA Westwood and at a theater in New York, and that's it. We're not going to distribute it wide." Basically, like, here, we don't want to hear any more about this. There, are you satisfied? And it ended up breaking the house record at the UA Westwood that had been set by the French Connection several years earlier.
Oh, wow.
And
right, in 71.
Yeah. And it was super gratifying for Daryl and me to be sitting at a coffee shop looking over at the UA Westwood to see a long line down the brick wall of the theater of kids in tennis shoes and T-shirts and blue jeans.
You were instrumental in putting it there. I mean, that's like the icing on the cake. I mean, right? I mean, that had to give you some satisfaction. You did it right in front of your benefactor / new boss /
That was the cake, and the icing on the cake was being rewarded with this plum job of working for him because I had proven my Marx Brothers bona fides. And I'll tell you now, one of the most gratifying things I hear, in addition to people saying, "I hate you," which I understand. I would hate me too if I met someone that got to
a rough word, maybe dislike greatly.
Then it loses its power. I hate you, because I know they don't mean that. They mean I envy you. But one of the most gratifying things is when someone says, "Oh, Animal Crackers was the first Marx Brothers movie I ever saw," or "Oh yeah, I saw it last night on TV," or "I have the DVD," and it's like, you don't know what I went through, because it had been unseen for decades in theaters and had never been part of MCA's syndication package of old Paramount films. So all the old Paramount movies that cycled through late night TV that had that big shield that said MCA TV release, which I always wanted to run up to the set and make it an MCA TV release.
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a quick question then. I mean, they had, Steve, they had, so you had the re-release of that, but didn't they at some point, this is what I was told, but this could be incorrect, this might be East Coast knowledge compared to LA, California now, but I was told that they didn't release that afterwards, but they did sporadically release the show, You Bet Your Life. Is there any truth to that, where they picked one over the other because one was more television worthy and the other one was a little bit too risque, or is there no truth to that?
Well, MCA didn't control You Bet Your Life, so there was no choice for them. It was whether to fool with Animal Crackers or not.
Okay.
But NBC still owned You Bet Your Life in partnership with Groucho and with John Goodell, who was the producer of the show. And it would periodically be syndicated. After the original episodes of the show ended in 61 or 2. But then it almost immediately, that's a misquote, it should be, "I would be in back of you." But there are more misquotes on the information superhighway than accurate quotes. But
and you're the only one, well, not the only one, but you would be number one in line to be able to refute that, obviously. So
I spend so much time trying to set the record straight. I have a letter from Steve Allen that ends with, "I hope this sets the record straight," which is more than my Pioneer turntable can do. Yes, I do.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah, he was great. I do spend an inordinate amount of time, not because anyone asked me to, but just because I want things to be as accurate as possible, because the things that Groucho said are marvelous. You don't have to cheat by giving him things he didn't say. But of course, with the internet, all sorts of things get misattributed, or, it seems like everything has been that was ever said that was clever must have been said by Groucho, Twain, Winston Churchill, or George Carlin. If it wasn't any of those people, I know, but in most cases, they're either misquotes or they're from someone else. But it's like, well, no one knows who it,
Right. Well, I mean, that goes back to, when that crops up, obviously with the internet, there's going to be good, bad, and indifferent, and you will be able, like I said, to refute it. But you're talking about quote unquote Grouchoisms, which you would know as an archivist. That has, obviously, that's a detailed job. It's an important job because that's how he's going to be remembered and have everything in order. Obviously, that's all part of the plan there. But if something was inaccurate, you probably, I'm sure you just jumped right on because you knew the guy was sitting 2 feet away from you. I mean, he's your source. Is this real? Did you do that with him? Like ask him things like that?
And it bothers me. It bothers me when people question. It's like, well, I've heard it both ways, or, well, that's not what I read. And it's like, I don't want to be a jerk, but my point of view is, I knew Groucho Marx. Groucho Marx was a friend of mine, and Senator, Groucho Marx. Is that I'm in a position to have a more informed opinion, if not actual firsthand seeing and hearing. So please dial down your, yes, there we are again. And with my Snoopy Joe Cool shirt. And Groucho with his Al Hirschfeld caricature shirt that he liked to wear with his beret. And
well, I didn't want to stop you because obviously the audio that'll go out, they're not going to be able to see it, but this is the visual part for the.
They don't know what they're missing. Oh, those poor listeners.
But you're so definitive in how you explain it and articulate, so it's okay. You are a man amongst men.
A verbal picture of what we are discussing.
Painting the picture. That's what Shakespeare said, something like that. But I don't think the guy that worked with him is still around. So we're lucky to have you. I don't think you want to enter the fold on that one. But I
No,
wanted
I
to
didn't
play a
know.
clip.
Bill Shakespeare and I were just good friends. Rumors to the contrary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's good old Billy Shakespeare. But I just love the way that I mean, duck soup, animal cracker. I mean, there's probably so many that are in there that even you bet your life. I mean, he was on spec on some of this stuff. I know this because there's no way someone could have written that because he's not even looking at the teleprompter. He's not doing any of that.
Well,
Could
do
be
you want
wrong.
the truth or do you
I
want the
do.
legend?
I don't want the legend. I had the legend. Now I have you. You are a legend. So please indulge me.
Well, no. If I'm a legend, then the word has become meaningless. Um,
And that's a Groucho.
it's like the word amazing. Everything now is amazing or awesome. I remember
No,
I went to
never
a
been.
restaurant and the lady taking names said, "What's your name?" I said Steve, and she said, "Last initial," and I said S, and she said, "Awesome." And I remember thinking, how is it awesome that my last initial is S? But I digress. And I don't even remember what I was beginning to explain because I derailed my own train of thought. What were we talking about?
William Shakespeare. No, I'm kidding. We were actually, no, you didn't get derailed on that. It was about people. You said, "Let me give you." When I said, "Well, he wasn't looking at the teleprompter during
Oh,
the
yes,
adventure life."
yes, yes.
All right,
This
there you
is
go.
this is
The
a
turn thought.
complex. This is a complex subject because some people will say Groucho thought up all that stuff on the off the cuff, without writers, unprepared. He was that brilliant. And other people will say everything he said was written out ahead of time, and he was reading all of it. And as is so often the case, the truth is in between those two extremes. The color of truth is gray, as Andre Gide once said, although he said it in French. Here's the deal. There's no way that just anybody could have done what Groucho did unless he wasn't fast and clever the Hollywood trade papers would be there. And one day he came to lunch table. He said, "Wonderful mail today. Nothing but requests for money." And I said, "But you got a variety, didn't you?" And he said, "Yes, a variety of requests for money." Now, nobody wrote that out for him. That's just how he was. However, you cannot guarantee gold every week. And so there was a staff of writers headed by Bernie Smith, who was a wonderful man and a great writer. And they would interview the contestants and jot down suggested comebacks for Groucho or suggestions for ask him about his hobby or something like that. So it was sort of a safety net that, and it was projected on an overhead projector over the heads of the contestants, so the audience and the contestants couldn't see it, but Groucho could look up there and, if he wanted to, use the line that was written. So
I'm sorry, this is on cards or is it a teleprompter back there? Because this is the 50s we're talking about, right? So it was, they had the cards.
It was an overhead projector.
It was a projector, okay.
You know, like I don't even know if they use them anymore, but in class you would draw like with grease pencil on a translucent thing, and it would be up on the wall, or a map of, the Confederate States.
Because I knew in the 50s they were turning stuff over where they had some technology, but no, I was just curious because I remember the old days with the...
Yeah, no, it wouldn't have been a teleprompter. It would have been ahead of time because they had pre-interviewed the guests, suggested lines. So the Bob Dwan, who was the director, told me that they tended to film about 50 minutes to an hour, and they would edit that down to a half hour. And he said once it was edited down, the percentage of spontaneous Groucho comments was far greater than the prepared comments. But, in the interest of full disclosure, some of what he did was written. But for the people that hear that and think, oh, well, then I guess Groucho wasn't as clever as I thought he was, you're doing him a great disservice, because it would be like dismissing Johnny Carson as a funny man because, well, he had writers write the monologue. Or, if the president, like at the White House Correspondents' Dinner, delivers a funny line and gets laughs, some people will say, well, but he didn't come up with that. But, there is a skill in choosing which jokes to tell and which not to tell. And in Groucho's case, much of it was off the cuff. So that is the long answer to your short question.
Well, that's in line with basically, I guess I kind of thought that, but when someone says, well, Steve Stoliar, he had a front row seat to all this, you literally had a front row seat to, you were at...
You can't get front row and next to him at the lunch table.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So you're literally at the intersectum. You're at the head table there. Now, I have a clip, and there's just so many good ones. They've already been checked out. They're all him. I made sure. Now, I know that and you know what? You're right to do that, because if you're going to honor the man's memory, let's have it be accurate.
I see so many coffee mugs and T-shirts and memes that have pictures of people dressed as Groucho that they're passing off as Groucho. And it's frustrating because they'll take the copy as the real thing, because it's like, well, he looks like him. He's got the mustache. And Alfred Eisenstadt, who was a well-known photographer for Life magazine, made himself up as Groucho and had a picture taken. And I see Alfred Eisenstadt mugs and T-shirts and memes, and it's like, it's not, but you don't care about Alfred Eisenstadt, so go ahead and say it's Groucho Marx.
No, and that name doesn't get an awesome at the end of that one either. But
It should.
yeah, I know. That's just in lieu of not being having a large vocabulary on that poor lady. I don't know what happened. But this one is it's a little lengthy, but I think we owe it to him because when will I ever have a chance? And if you've ever seen my show, I like to watch with the people that are inclusive of it. It's my trademark, so to speak. But like I said,
And I did that at Groucho's. We would watch episodes of You Bet Your Life. And Groucho, he should have gotten that. He should have known the answer to that. That was an easy one. Or we watch it. Yes?
I thought I was going to say, I take it back. You are correct. I do hate you now because you get to watch it.
I finally got
mission accomplished. No, I'm kidding, sir. But it's the fact that good for you. I'm glad that somebody like you that could actually appreciate it, not someone go, who? Because then you got to off yourself because you'd be like, well, the one person should be a fan.
There were nurses and then reporters would come and interview him just because it was an assignment and they really wouldn't know much about him. And I would think, what an insult to this man that he's wasting. Right. Well, one of them actually said, what are you doing with your time, Mr. Marks? And he said, I'm wasting it talking to you.
I get just, there's only a few people, someone like George Carlin, someone like Richard Pryor, and then obviously the top of the line is Groucho Marx. Those are the only people that I just start laughing. I can't help it. He's way beyond because he's snarky, he's punny. I mean, I don't know how it would go over today, but as far as I'm concerned, this is the man that I owe it. My sarcasm, I owe it all to this man. So I'm going to play the clip. It's a little bit longer, but we will watch it, and I'll mute my mic, and I'm going to end up laughing, so I got to mute my mic. So here we go.
I want to be near you. I want you to hold me. Oh, hold me closer, closer, closer.
If I hold you any closer, I'll be in back of you.
Oh, why can't we break away from all this, just you and I, and lodge with my fleas in the hills? I mean, flee to my lodge in the hills. And you can say it was a real love match. We married for money. Eh, my shrinking, Violet? Say, it wouldn't hurt you to shrink 30 or 40 pounds.
Oh, you impudent head.
Why, you're one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen, and that's not saying much for you.
Why don't you marry me?
Why, marry you?
You take me and I'll take a vacation. I'll need a vacation if we're going to get married.
But you're the man I've been dreaming of.
What do you eat before you go to bed?
Yes, I don't think I've ever seen 4 more beautiful eyes in my life. Well, 3 anyway.
I could dance with you till the cows come home.
Yes.
On second thought, I'd rather dance with the cows till you come home.
Huh. I mean your eyes. Your eyes. They shine like the pants of a blue suede suit.
What? I welcome you with open arms.
Is that so? How late do you stay open?
Why, I've never been so insulted in my life.
Well, it's early yet.
He's had a change of heart.
A lot of good that'll do him. He's still got the same face.
I hadn't intended to make a speech at all, but you certainly succeeded.
This lady is my wife. You should be ashamed.
If this lady is your wife, you should be ashamed.
She looks as healthy as any woman I've ever met.
You don't look as though you ever met a healthy woman.
What? Haven't we seen each other somewhere before? I don't think so. I'm not sure I'm seeing you now. It must be something I ate.
Remember, you're fighting for this woman's honor, which is probably more than she ever did.
Why don't you go home to your wife? I'll tell you what, I'll go home to your wife, and outside of the improvements, you'll never know the difference.
Can you sleep on your stomach with such big buttons on your pajamas? So, you didn't think I was a real detective, eh?
If you're a detective, I'm a monkey's uncle.
Keep your family out of this.
Oh, please.
$9.40, this is an outrage. If I were you, I wouldn't pay it.
Well, that covers a lot of ground. Say, you cover a lot of ground yourself. You better beat it. I hear they're going to tear you down and put up an office building where you're standing.
I thought this cigar was in my other suit.
I wish you were in your other suit, and your other suit was being pressed. No, mangled.
Did anyone ever tell you look like the Prince of Wales? I don't mean the present Prince of Wales, one of the old Wales. And believe me, when I say Wales, I mean whales. I know a whale when I see one.
You guys go to your rooms. I'll be down shortly.
That reminds me, I must get my watch fixed. Crooks, the crooks, they're escaping. Follow me, man. Never mind the men, just the women.
Hey. Yes, sir?
Oh, no, sir. This is special for Mr. Helton, sir.
You see this? Come back in a half hour and I'll give you another look at it.
Can you tell me the price of this bed?
$8,000.
Why, that's preposterous. I can get the same bed anywhere in town for $25.
Yes, but not with me in it.
A lady's diamond earring has been lost. It looks exactly like this. In fact, this is it.
I've been sitting right here since 7 o'clock.
Yes, with your back to me. When I invite a woman to dinner, I expect her to look at my face. That's the price she has to pay.
What experience have you had in a department store?
I was a shoplifter for 3 years.
Oh, Captain! Oh, gracious! Oh,
If you weren't smaller than me, I'd flog the daylights out of you.
But I'm bigger than you.
Well, that's another reason.
are you sure you have everything okay?
I've never had any complaints yet. Are you a man or a mouse? You put a piece of cheese down there and you'll find out.
One of them goes around with a black mustache. So do I. If I had my choice, I'd go around with a little blonde.
I can see you right now in the kitchen, bending over a hot stove. But I can't see the stove. This magnificent chest. No, this magnificent chest. I'm the plumber. I'm just hanging around in case something goes wrong with our pipes. That's the first time I've used that joke in 20 years.
Is it true you're getting a divorce as soon as your husband recovers his eyesight? Is it true you wash your hair in clam broth? Is it true you used to dance in a flea circus?
This is outrageous.
No thanks. Bad luck. 3 on a midget. We took some pictures of the native girls, but they weren't developed. But we're going back again in a couple of weeks.
Why, look at that face. Oh, look at that face. I'll go and pick up a couple of the boys. I'll stay here and pick up a couple of names. Women, this is no time for women. On to the bar.
Hunga Dunga, and McCall.
You've left out a hunga dunga. You left out the main one, too.
You might have some tomato juice, orange juice, grape juice, pineapple juice.
Hey, turn off the juice before I get electrocuted. Why, a 4-year-old child could understand this report. Run out and find me a 4-year-old child. I can't make head or tail out of it.
What do you think of that slide?
Well, I think he was safe at second, but it was very close. You know Conductor Hennessy, don't you?
Inspector.
Inspector yourself.
But look at me. I've worked myself up from nothing to a state of extreme poverty. Now, what do you say?
What are you doing with that cigar in your mouth?
Why, do you know another way to smoke it? What do you think of at night when you go to bed, you beast?
Well, I'll tell you, my dear.
I'd rather not discuss it any further. Remember, there are children present. I'll see you at the theater tonight. I'll hold your seat till you get there. After you get there, you're on your own. Now, don't point that beard at me. It might go off.
Oh, throw me the lifesaver. Oh, Professor Wagstaff, please hurry, Professor.
Anything further, Father? Anything further, Father? That can't be right. Isn't it anything farther further? Farabelli, you've got the brain of a 4-year-old boy, and I bet he was glad to get rid of it.
You're awfully shy for a lawyer.
You bet I'm shy. I'm a shy lawyer.
I'm going there soon, you know.
Is that so? Where are you going?
Uruguay.
Well, you go Uruguay, and I'll go mine. Well, all the jokes can't be good. You've got to expect that once in a while. Fancy seeing you here. Well, it's a small world after all.
Boogie, boogie, boogie.
You mind if I don't smoke?
One morning, I shot an elephant in my pajamas. How he got in my pajamas, I don't know.
Incredible. Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Wow. Let's just watch clips for the rest of the show. Well,
Yeah, I know. You know what?
I salute your taste in clips. Those were really nicely chosen and show Groucho off to his best advantage.
Thank you. That actually means a lot to me because it wasn't easy to get a compilation like that. But the ones that I went through, I felt that I owed it to you and to him. And I wanted it to be perfect. And I mean that. That's not a ratings thing. That's, I wanted to do him justice. It was checked, double checked, triple checked. It is all him.
And I'll tell you, even 50 years later, I still can't quite believe that I knew that man and also Zeppo. I look at them on the screen in their youth in makeup and wardrobe and all that, and I think I interacted with those people. And it is still hard for me to say, oh, yeah, sure.
I mean, do you miss him? I mean, did you feel like, I mean, there had to be moments. I'm just speculating, obviously, but because that's all I can do. I was, 7 years old when the man passed, but I I know that there's a couple of things, well, and it'll just be like a rapid fire thing, kind of, because number one, he not the same day, but didn't he pass away within a day or two of Elvis? Is that true?
3 days later, and I've never forgiven Presley for that because August 19th is when Groucho died, and because Presley's death was so unexpected, it eclipsed Groucho's death, so that it was sort of like, and 86-year-old comedian Groucho Marx died today. We'll have more coverage on how the death of Elvis Presley is impacting the world after these messages. And it was like, and there were letters in Time magazine, letters to the editor from Dick Cavett and Woody Allen, basically saying, was it our imagination or was there short shrift given to the passing of Groucho Marx?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, and they're both correct by saying that. In other words, that's a euphemism for what the hell are you people doing, I would think.
I'm not going to take away from Presley's importance in pop music and pop culture.
No, of course
and
not.
He was 42, and so it wasn't expected, although I guess the people near him knew the shape that he was in.
Supposedly he's still around in some circles.
Yes. And Groucho had been in failing health, and there were, several false alarm scares in the road to his actual death where I thought, well, this is it. I showed up one day, it was just a few weeks into my 3-year tenure there, and I was finally starting to feel comfortable working there, and not that someone was going to clap their hand on my shoulder and say, excuse me, we've made a terrible mistake, you don't belong here. And I was feeling comfortable, and I rang the bell, and the maid answered the door and said, please be quiet, Mr. Marx has had a stroke. And I remember thinking, oh man, just as it was beginning, the coach is turning back into a pumpkin, but I had a great 3 weeks. And I went, and the maid said, they're asking for you back in his room. So I went in expecting to see him like lying on the floor and unable to talk. And instead he was propped up in bed with his mucklucks reading the paper. He said, is the ambulance here yet? And I said, no, not yet. It figures. And went back to his newspaper and was like, wait a minute. I'm expecting you to be knocking at death's door with both fists, and you're just... and so he sprang... Yeah, he sprang back from that and other ones. And as I mentioned, I ended up being there for 3 years, but I certainly didn't know that at the time. So it wasn't so unexpected when he died compared to the Presley bombshell. And of course, now every year in August, TCM starts to show Elvis movies, and there start to be articles with people that knew Presley or worked with him or something. Well, here we are coming up on the passing of the king, and it's like, oh, all over again. I have to go through Elvis eclipsing Groucho. And in the book that I wrote about my time there, Raised Eyebrows, my years inside Groucho's house.
Yeah, top corner right there. Yep.
I make the point that there were other kings on other thrones. So it wasn't like Groucho was a bigger deal than Elvis Presley. It was, there are separate but equal kings of different lands.
Of course. And you made mention of that in your book, which I think is admirable. I mean, both men, to be revered. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong. Not only that, but didn't Elvis live across the street from him?
He actually lived... For a while, he lived up Hillcrest, which is where Groucho lived. I mean, he had Graceland and he had other places, but there was a time when he lived up the hill from Groucho.
Same street in Beverly Hills, right? It was.
Yeah, Hillcrest. A few doors up was Danny Thomas, I remember at lunch once, Aaron Fleming was at the lunch table and Groucho, and Aaron looked out the window, which was the backyard, and she said, "Oh my God, there's people on the hill." Looking at us through binoculars. And Groucho said, "They probably think I'm Danny Thomas."
Danny Thomas.
So
right,
she was an alarmist, and he tossed it off as big deal, you know.
I mean, being next to him must have been, I mean, near the end, and you could see him obviously slowly slipping away and everything. He still had his faculty until the very, I mean, to the very end, from what I've heard on a show that you were on back in, I believe it was 96. And I think you and I mentioned this a couple of weeks ago. That part, I would never like the same stuff, but if you could reiterate that for us, sir, what he said to the nurse.
There was, Well, yes, that was the dark side of my dream coming true. One of them was putting up with Aaron Fleming's volatility because she was mentally unbalanced and given to fits of rage and hiring and firing and yelling at Groucho. It was a tough situation to try to be in between and stay on her good side and still be trying to care about and care for Groucho and not get fired.
Right.
So there was that was one of the downsides, and the other downside was that the bargain I had made with fate was, we will let you spend time with your hero, but it means you're going to be there slowly watching the clock run down. Instead of just newspaper stories now and again and then an obituary, I'm going to be there and involved in the intrigue, in the fight over a conservatorship and his estate. And, there was all that stuff, but I was also going to have to watch, the faucet slowly get turned off. Towards the end, he was really hazy. And when he was in the hospital at Cedars Sinai, although it was just Cedars then, it hadn't merged with Sinai. Again, ever the stickler for accuracy on stuff.
You know what? I don't even attempt to argue with you because that's a non-winning situation
and a non-interesting one to boot. And so I dare anyone to find that interesting. Anyway, when he was literally on his deathbed, drifting in and out of lucidity, he was sleeping, and the nurse woke him up, and he said, "What do you want?" And she said, "I have to see if you have a temperature." And he said, "Don't be silly. Everybody has a temperature," meaning 98.6. So again, despite these sledgehammer blows to his mind from strokes and hardening of the arteries and age, that mechanism that caused him to twist a phrase and hand it back, to look at something and take it literally. He let me shoot a short video in his living room as part of a production class for UCLA. And I said, "Well, there's election just around the corner." And he said, "Which corner?" And I said, "Well, it's just around the corner." And he said, "You can't just say around the corner. It has to be a specific corner." And that whole thing of taking a cliche literally, I find myself doing that all the time. Like I was saying with, people that say awesome and amazing and wonder how amazing is it that I have a last initial. That's
very, very cavalier of them.
Yeah. It stayed so that his humor, was there to some degree all the way to the end, which is kind of bittersweet.
So if you had a choice, you don't want to see this happen, the inevitable, but you're probably torn because you don't want to not be there either, because time is precious, something that no matter how much money and fame and fortune you have, time is the only commodity that we cannot buy into. So I'm guessing if you had a choice, it would be exactly the way that you did it, if only for a little while longer, would be the only caveat to that, I would guess.
Yeah, I didn't want it to end, but that was selfish of me because, at some point, quality of life enters into it. At one point, he did say to someone, "This is no way to live." So he was aware of his diminishing, his body conking out. And it's sort of like, it's like that when you have a pet that's old and sick and you're thinking, "No, I don't want to have it put to sleep because I don't want to be gypped out of even one day." But then you think if it's weak and old and not feeling well, it's selfish of you to want to do that. So yeah, I never wanted this adventure to end, and I never took any of it for granted. I never woke up and said, "Well, I guess I'll schlep over to Groucho's house today." I never knew what funny or shocking or fascinating thing was going to happen, or people. I mean, the people that traipsed through there, the people from the Groucho's writers, Maury Riskin, Nat Perrin, S.J. Perelman, one of the premier humorists of the 20th century, the people from his TV show, George Fenneman, and the writers and the producer, and Mae West and Bob Hope and George Burns and Milton Berle and Steve Allen and Jack Lemmon. And it was...
These people are all coming over the house while you're there. Just, oh, by the way, someone get the door. It's, Bob Hope.
Yeah. When George... this was before George Burns was in the Sunshine Boys. His best friend, Jack Benny, was in rehearsals for it. And it was only Benny's unexpected death from stomach cancer that George Burns got that role, which led to that whole renaissance in his career of doing Oh God and all those later films. But because I was a fanatic about the early comedians, the vaudeville radio movie guys, I certainly appreciated full well who George Burns was before Sunshine Boys. And I was nervous when the doorbell rang, and I answered it, and this little man looked up at me and said, "Hi, you want to live a long time? Become an actor. You live to be an old man like Groucho and me. Okay, let's eat." And he shuffled into the dining room, and I was able to witness these two giants of comedies of the 30s and 20s, and talking about vaudeville and arguing about whether... No, it wasn't on 63rd Street, because that was Keith's theater. You're thinking of the theater in Chicago. And it's like, it was just an extraordinary... I mean, I told Burns that I had recently seen International House, which was a movie he made in 1933 with Burns and Allen and W.C. Fields at Paramount. And he said, "I gave Fields a gag. It was about a coffee cup and a tea bag." And he used that in the picture. And I'm thinking, wow, just this offhand comment of mine about seeing the movie triggered this story about him giving W.C. Fields a gag for the movie. And that's what it was like over there.
W.C. Fields. I mean, did Groucho have family around him near the end? And I'm guessing, because actually I don't know. I wanted to actually ask you this. He passed away in his sleep, right? I mean, isn't that what happened?
Well, he had two daughters and a son, and they had all had their own ups and downs throughout his life. But Aaron Fleming drove a real wedge between his family and him. It's such a... I mean, it's sort of a cliche that as the curtain is coming down, some younger woman enters the picture and alienates the family and the longtime friends. And that's sort of how it was. He stayed on best terms with his youngest daughter, Melinda, who's still around and lives in Northern California. And he used to bring her out once a year on You Bet Your Life to sing and dance, which she said she really didn't want to do. But she did it because he loved to show her off to the audience.
Well, he went quietly, I'm guessing, in the night.
Yeah. Finally, he just didn't wake up, which we knew was out there somewhere.
Were you there the last day before?
I wasn't there, but I was at the house the weekend that he died. That was my last weekend there. The temporary conservator, Nat Perrin, who had co-written Monkey Business and Duck Soup and created The Addams Family and a lot of other great stuff, was one of Groucho's oldest friends, and he was chosen by the judge as a fair middleman between the Aaron Fleming faction and the Arthur Marx faction, who were kind of battling over control of Groucho. So he had asked me to stay there on weekends to supervise the people visiting Groucho so that they didn't clash because there was such animosity between the two groups. So my last weekend was the weekend after he died, and I was, fielding phone calls. And I remember one of the phone calls was from Betty Comden, who was half of the writing team of Betty Comden and Adolph Green, who wrote the screenplays for Singin' in the Rain and The Bandwagon and a lot of great Broadway musicals. And Betty Comden said, "Is Aaron there?" And I said, "No." And she said, "Is Arthur there?" And I said, "No." And she said, "I don't know who to console." And for want of a better answer, I said, "I guess we should console ourselves." That's how it was, because there had been this bitter split towards the end. And so there wasn't any organized, there wasn't like a memorial service where people were able to come and share
the general public. They weren't there.
No, it was a very small, tight service. Erin had a little gathering of her friends, and Arthur had a little gathering of his friends. But by then, it's like Arthur never trusted me because he felt I was, since Erin had technically hired me, I was one of her people. And Erin soured on me after I gave a 3-day deposition in the midst of the conservatorship battle, where I didn't savage her, but merely being honest about how she treated and mistreated Groucho and the household showed that even though I will forever remain grateful to her for having hired me, because none of this would have happened if she hadn't done that, that does not obligate me to a blind loyalty where I would lie or suppress the truth to protect her. So when Groucho died, neither faction was really particularly warm towards me, only Nat Perrin in the middle. And we were left to lick our wounds, on our own and get on with our lives.
And Groucho was, how old was he when he passed?
86, a couple months short of 87.
Wow. So, I mean, one could say a casual observer, maybe someone who, I don't know how that could be, but somebody that didn't know who he was. I'm talking about back then. The fact that he lived to be that age, I mean,
that was pretty good for back then. I mean, the other thing is, I've been such a history fanatic my whole life. I mean, I've loved paleontology and archaeology, and also just American and world history. And the idea that I was sitting at a lunch table with a man born in 1890 blew my mind. I mean, Queen Victoria still had 11 years left on the throne when Groucho was born. His firsthand memories went from before the Wright brothers to after the moon landing, which is mind-blowing. I asked him once, "How far back do you remember?" And he took a moment, and then he said, "I guess the Spanish-American War." That was 1898. He would have been 7 or 8 years old. He was this living time capsule, in addition to being the only Groucho, and, as I say, someone who was personal friends with W.C. Fields and George Gershwin and Irving Berlin and Thurber and Dorothy Parker and these mythic figures that I picture in black and white in 2 dimensions, and he knew them. So, yeah, it was just for a history buff, he was a great. It was a great get for me to be able to hear him. He told me about when the Marx Brothers were touring in their first Broadway hit, "I'll Say She Is," in 1923, and he said they were playing a town in a building, in a theater that had an aluminum roof, and it was raining the night of the performance. And earlier in the day, President Harding had died unexpectedly. And he said, nobody was in the mood to laugh. He said, my brothers and I were doing our act on the stage, but all we could hear was the sound of the raindrops hitting the aluminum roof because no one was laughing. And it was such a vivid tableau that he brought to life from 1923. Just because I asked.
That's amazing. I have 2 things that I wanted to make To clarify for not only our audience but for my own, for my own well-being, as far as knowing that you're probably the only one that would know this stuff. There's two things. Number one is my personal one, where I wanted to know. You're not going to know every Grouchoism, but I want to make sure that even if it's maybe not verbatim, but I have it close, because it's absolutely one of my favorite ones, and I want to make sure. So let's see. I didn't come here to get insulted. Oh, where do you usually go? That was him? Is that correct?
First of all, no, I don't think it was.
No.
I mean, there's the clip you showed from a day at the races,
right?
Which is, I've never been so insulted. Well, it's early yet. I have heard that line about where you usually go, and it is very Groucho-esque, but I've never been able to attribute it to him, nor have I heard about the, quote, real author of that line. So I don't know. All I can give it is a solid I don't know.
A solid I don't know from Steve Stoliar is better than most people's stuff, so I'll take that as a
wrong answer. Yeah.
Well, hey, look, you know what I mean? If I'm going to be wrong and you're going to be, let's say you're wrong, I'm in good company, because you're never wrong about this stuff, or very rarely, I should say.
Well,
and you're going back. This is a long time ago. I mean, this is more than 40-something years ago.
I know. The fact that it was 50 years ago, it just astonishes me. Yeah. But here I am with most of my wits about me, literally.
Most of them. Most of them. Well, the ones that count anyway. It's early in the week. I'm thinking of the clip, and I'm trying to pay you the respect, but I can hear him echoing in my mind, even though the reel is finished, and I'm just like laughing, like, you're the best looking woman I've ever seen. It's not saying much for you. I mean, it's just funny. I can't help it. It's just the guy.
I've seen all these movies so many times, and I'm particularly fond of the Paramount films, and I'm glad that's why most of your clips came from. And yet, I will still either smile loudly or chuckle a little. I'm always either finding new things or old things strike me more funnily than before. So even this time, when you showed the clip from Coconuts, and the guy said, I didn't intend to make a speech at all, and Groucho says, well, you certainly succeeded. I'd forgotten that line. Excuse me. Excuse me. And it just sort of caught me again. Or there'll be sometimes it's an innocuous line, like in the classroom scene in Horse Feathers, when the professor says, are there any questions? And Chico stands up and says, when you gonna cut the watermelon open? It isn't one of the most famous lines, but it gets me sometimes. So even after all these years and repeated viewings, especially the Paramount films, which they're faster and they don't get bogged down in elaborate musical numbers and love stories and subplots like the MGM films did. They hold up wonderfully.
And that's actually very well put. All right, the last thing that I wanted to ask, as far as what was on my plate, because I already knew a lot. I have done my due diligence, and now that that I am aware of, well, I've always been aware of who you are, and I've seen you periodically.
I haven't always been aware of who I am, so you're.
Well, thank you. High five. All right, raised eyebrows. Steve Stoliar. There's the actually. Let me put on the big one for the people that are going to see this on YouTube later on. So there it is.
I need to plug that, by the way. It is.
All right. Well, here comes the shameless plug. Go for it.
It is available on Amazon. Not along the Amazon. You needn't fly to Brazil. It's available on Amazon, also in Kindle or audiobook with me doing all the voices and reading. Or if you would like to get a signed or personalized copy of the book, you can go to my website, which is stevestoliar.com, and I will be
running it right there. Yep.
Yes, but for those of our listeners who aren't viewers, they can't see what's on the screen, Greg. Perhaps you don't understand.
I know, and now they know, because that's what the editing is for later. But we're good. Keep going.
I also want to say that the book is currently being developed into a motion picture that will star Jeffrey Rush as the elderly Groucho. And it will blow what's left of my mind to see this chunk of my life dramatized on screen with people playing people that I knew, including someone playing me at 20 with mutton chops and a full head of hair.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, they're gonna have to find a Snoopy shirt. You don't even have that anymore, do you?
I threw it out last week. I wish you'd said something.
That's actually funny. Damn, you just missed, Steve. All right, so you can get it on stevestolier.com. www.stevestolier.com. That's STEVESTOLIAR.com. And obviously, you can get it everywhere. I mean, the fact that it's electronic and you can buy the hardcover or whatever and get it signed, I think that's great. It gives a little bit of something for everyone out there.
Yeah, people have gotten the audio book that had the book say it's a completely different experience, because one is a performance that enters your brain through your ear and the other is, pages that you read. So
no, anyway. that's a good point. But and the last but not least, for those that don't know that are watching and listening, I'm going to flash this one up there, but obviously I'll be able to explain it, or actually you would have to if you would indulge us. Tell the people that don't know what that mustache is all about. In other words, I know this answer already, but for those that don't, could you explain?
Well, what you're showing is a portrait of Groucho from '39 that he signed to Steve, a great secretary, Groucho. And because it's an original still, you should be able to see that his mustache is paint, grease paint. He used to, on stage, he used to have a crepe mustache that he had to put spirit gum on his upper lip and then paste the fake mustache on and then let it dry and then go out and do his performance. But one night he was late to the theater and he didn't have time to fool with all that. So he stuck his finger in the grease paint and smeared it across his upper lip. And he got the same laughs he got. And he thought, well, good, this saves me time. I don't have to bother putting on that stupid fake mustache. And then when he was making The Coconuts in 1929, the first film, the producers said, you can't wear a grease paint mustache. Audiences won't accept it. And Groucho said they accepted it for years on the stage. And the guy said, well, that was on the stage. This is in the movies, and they won't accept it. And Groucho defied him. And of course, now it's kind of laughable to think that there was concern that because it was grease paint and not a fake mustache, it wasn't going to work well.
No, yeah, that wouldn't work. Now, later on, like when
he grew his own.
Yeah, well, that
he had the best of both with the grease paint mustache, because when he was out of makeup, he was virtually unrecognizable. So he could walk among people or dine in a restaurant or be on a train or an airplane, and people wouldn't pester him. But if he wanted the recognition, he could. It's like he was part of a group called the Hollywood Victory Caravan that went out by train city to city in 1942 to sell war bonds for America's war effort in World War II. And he did talk about when all the celebrities would get off the train, there'd be all these cheers, and then he would get off the train and there wouldn't be anything. So he would go around to the back of the train and then put his grease paint mustache on and come out again, and then there'd be cheers. So he could turn it on and off. Then in the late 40s, when the Marx Brothers team broke up, and he realized that he's pushing 60, and the guy with the grease paint eyebrows and mustache is getting old, he grew his own, and that's what we saw on You Bet Your Life and in his later years. Correct. So he was recognizable, but he wasn't trying to get away with this outrageous clown.
It's kind of his trademark. I mean, and it was real big, excuse me. And obviously, I mean, it was more, pronounced and more demonstrative than having a regular mustache. And you're looking at it and it's like, well, that's not Charlie Chaplin's thing. And it's not that nobody Nobody that I've ever seen before, maybe since, but before, ever did that. He pioneered that the grease paint mustache. That's all his. And then that's not such a bad moniker to have, I would think, because think about it. I don't think anybody's ever done anything like that. Nobody. That's his, whether he meant to or not. I think
know.
that's pretty cool. I mean, you would be the one that would know, and that's why.
Bobby Clark of Clark and McCulloch had grease paint glasses. He drew the circles around his eyes and drew the lines to his ears, and that was his look. He had a sort of a pork pie hat and a cigar, and grease paint eyeglasses, but not a mustache or eyebrows. But no, offhand, I can't think of others who did that. And they would have been accused of ripping off Groucho, which they do anyway.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so final thoughts, because obviously we're not scripted, because I'd like it to just flow, because I appreciate it. It's very organic that way. And you could see, well, for those that are listening, once again, but what you're going to be able to see is I could see it in your face. And what I mean by that is you talk with so much reverence, so much, I can't even think of the right word. Like, I can tell you miss the man, and that this brings back a flood of memories when you speak about him. Not the first time, and definitely not the last. And then you're going to have the movie going on, someone playing him and someone playing you. And it's like you're looking at your life from the outside in. And I can't even imagine the thoughts and the feelings that are going through your body and mind and soul. But the fact that you will always, always be 1 degree separation away from the great Groucho Marx. Not bad, Steve. Not bad at all.
I was very fortunate, and like I said, I never took any of it for granted. And I'm so glad that I knew who all those people were ahead of time, because I don't know if you've had the experience of meeting someone famous, but you're not all that sure. And then later on you think, is that who that was? Oh man, I wish I'd known. Yeah, but instead, it's like, he would bring me in to meet his writers, and they would be thinking like, you have no idea who any of us old Alta cockers are, do you? And my brain was like a Rolodex would flip to the card. No, you're Nat Perrin. You co-wrote Monkey Business and Duck Soup. You're Irving Brecker. You wrote At the Circus and Go What? And it was like, wow, this kid knows this stuff. So I met him
and he knew what duck soup was. That's amazing.
Yeah. But it was at the peak of my obsession. So I was really able to drink it in and appreciate how lucky I was, instead of looking back and going, I wish I'd asked him this, or I wish I'd known he was in that, or I did all right.
Yeah, you definitely, without a doubt, sir, that you did. Now, you've archived everything a while ago, and everything's in there. His, I want to say his, obviously, Groucho's, not his belongings, but basically I don't know what you would call it, part of the estate, whatever the case may be, where people go for factual finding on about this and about that, and where is that stuff? You don't have to give me a specific location.
The memorabilia was collated for donation to the Smithsonian, and much of it is there. Although certain things were held back by family members, and frustratingly, I see some stuff cycling through auction houses and eBay, and I remember seeing them on Groucho's shelves, and it kind of breaks my heart. Also, after Groucho died, there was an estate sale that no one told me about, where a lot of the stuff that was considered negligible was just sold like a garage sale. Because I was in a bookstore in Hollywood, and there was a book of the Paris Review profiles of writers that George Plimpton did, and the one that had S.J. Perelman in it had been given to him by Dick Cavett. I opened up this book, and it said, "To Groucho with love from Dick Cavett," and I had looked at that on Groucho's bookcase. Groucho enjoyed the fact that I appreciated the books. He said, "You can borrow any of my books. Just make sure you bring them back." But I said to the bookseller, this was Groucho. And he said, yeah, they had an estate sale shortly after he died. I picked up a bunch of stuff. And it just, that's one of the things that hits me emotionally is when I'll see something from his house and know that it's just a commodity that gets bought, sold, and traded. And,
and this would be the one time, I would guess that this would be the one time where you were hoping that would be a fake. The one time and one time only that it wouldn't be accurate. I mean, it sounds to me, it's a yes or no question. Did you love the man?
Yes. Loved, admired, and it was gratifying that there was a certain amount of affection back. That
I'm sure he loved you too,
I was
Steve.
out of
There's
town.
no way.
I was out of town once, and the cook, when I came back, the cook told me that he Steve today. And she said, oh, he had to go out of town. He knows what he's doing. And I thought, wow, an unsolicited compliment.
Unsolicited, yeah.
Because I wasn't there. She had to tell me.
I mean, he probably appreciated, and I hate to say probably because I don't know, but he probably, or most definitely, I would have to say now that I've spoken to you in length, that not only did he love you, but he was giving back. He knew with one eye closed that you were a fan, and he fed into that, but he didn't make you feel uncomfortable where he was here and you were there. He treated you as a friend, as someone that's helping him, someone that revered and was like to be around him sincerely, not just for traipsing through like a lot of people did and let's argue in court about his estate and let's do this and let's, no,
as I said,
you had a special spot.
It was more than just an employer-employee relationship, and he was comfortable with me being there. He liked having me around, and there was a certain affection, but it's still difficult for me to say we were friends because I feel that oversteps what it was, but it was more than just a guy who worked there.
I think it was beyond friends in a ceremonial. So, I mean, if that's even a word.
Well, I was looking after his well-being in the last days, and that he was unaware of that. That was. probably my greatest contribution was in keeping him as comfortable and running as smoothly on those weekends when I was having to referee the different factions, and yet he remained unaware that that was going on in the rest of the house. So
I would have to disagree with you on that. That's the only point I'd have to disagree, because I think a man of his intelligence, even though it was near the end, I think he knew that you had his back.
I don't know.
I think
we'll
he did.
never
The guy wasn't stupid,
Shrouded in mists of time.
Well, if I was a betting man, and I am, I would bet that he didn't say anything, but he just assumed that you would, because of the relationship, more than an employer-employee thing.
Yeah.
And kind of falling in between, not family, not employee, kind of in that middle ground there. And that's a great place to be, because that's better than anybody else had during and at the end. You had a front row seat to the greatest comedian, entertainer. I'm in awe of that man, because there'll never, ever be someone like him. Maybe someone like him, but there's obviously only going to be one him. And you had the front row seat, Steve. My hat's off to you, because I respect the fact that you were able to get a job done, cared about him, had nothing to do with the paycheck. After a certain time, it was just because this is my hero. I got to take care of this guy. It's incumbent upon me to make sure that he's going to be as good as he can be for as long as he can be. And you took that, grasped it with two hands, and I and a lot of my listeners, I'm sure all of them, appreciate you for what you did. And I say thank you.
Nice of you to say that.
Well, I mean it. Anybody that knows me, which if you get to know me, I say what I mean what I say. I do mean that, because it renews my faith in the human nature, basically. It's not always about what we can do for you. It's about what can you do for another human being. And this man was just fantastic. I can't even think of a good enough word to describe. We're talking about Groucho Marx here. It blows my mind. I don't get
blows my mind.
Plenty of them.
And I was there.
And I talk to people all the time. I have for over the course of the last 30-something years. He would have been one of the ones, guaranteed, that I would have been starstruck. I would have been like I wouldn't even be able to talk at all. I'd have to point at my face to get it to speak. But it was the fact that you were right there. I'm glad if somebody was able to. I'm glad it was you, Steve. That's pretty.
That's very nice.
That's nice. And I look forward to when they're going to do this movie. I mean, are you going to be like a consultant on this?
I co-wrote the screenplay, and I'm co-executive producer, so I'm sort of peripherally involved. Yeah.
Well, that'll come out. That'll come out to La La Land, and that'll come, if you'll have me, we'll have some popcorn, and we'll do it just the way that he said. And you just sit there like the old vaudeville days and just kind of enjoy the show, be in the moment. I'm there. All you got to do is invite me, and I'll be there, because that man deserves it. And he deserved you, and I appreciate you being here and talking to our audience, because...
My pleasure.
He was one of a kind, and so are you, sir. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Stoliar. You can get his book. Let me, for those that are watching, we have it up there, Raised Eyebrows. What a perfect name for that, by the way. Yeah, you're pretty good at what you do there, Steve. Not that I ever doubted that, but that's pretty cool. And it I don't know, it just sticks out. Like the cover of the book, they did a nice job. Whoever put this together.
And Drew Friedman is the artist that did the front. He does fabulous. His drawings are more real than photographed.
There is one last thing that we'll end it with, and I'll try to pay homage the best way that I can. And I do remember, now I don't know if this is a Grouchoism or not, and I'm praying that I get this right, because it's impossible to ask you ahead of time. It takes away from the speed of it. But if he said, some I'm paraphrasing here, but if he said something like die, well, that's the last thing I'll ever do. Did he say that?
No.
And you could have lied for our audience, Steve. But thank you for what an ad lib.
Like Mr. Memory in the 39 Steps. I'm compelled to answer the questions asked of me.
Well, that would have been awesome if he did, because that sounds like something what you alluded to earlier. It might not have been him, but it sounds like something that it's Groucho-esque, and sometimes that's good enough for me because that's him in a nutshell. There we go. So you have it. It's Raised Eyebrows. So we'll put the bigger one on here, like I promised. That is the book. It's on Kindle. It's an ebook, so you could get it that way. It's on Amazon. It's all over the place. If you want a signed copy of it, actual book, an actual it's hard copy, right, Steve?
Actually, it's paperback.
It's paperback? Okay. So you could get a signed one from the man himself here, Steve Stoliar, at www.stevestoliar.com. That's www.stevestoliar.com. Wanted to thank you again, Steve. I appreciate you. And
sure.
I know Groucho would be proud of you. I'm positive. I'm just hoping one day maybe he'll be proud of me. He was an awesome guy, and he's got a great soul. I'm sure he's smiling at us right now. Ladies and gentlemen, Steve Stoliar, thank you very much, Steve. Rock on, baby. We will talk to you soon.
All right. I enjoyed it. Take care.
So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. I was really, really I look forward to all of my interviews, the ones that I conduct on my own. And the Steve Stoliar one, the gentleman that you just listened to and that others will watch later on, that was important because Groucho Marx wasn't just any comedian or someone that passed away and we're paying homage to, or we're just trying to be correct about this. We're talking about Groucho Marx here. I mean, the bar was set so high by him. I wouldn't even be able at 100% of somebody else can't even get to 50% of Groucho. That's how great, for use of a better word, I believe that the man was. Way ahead of his time, witty, sarcastic, snarky, puns, everything that he did. I couldn't even stop myself from laughing because he was that good. He was that good. And I only wish that I could have met the gentleman, but the gentleman that I just spoke with, Steve, he had that front row seat. He was in the inner sanctum. And I know before he said, you're going to hate me now because I did that. I don't hate Steve. And I'm relatively sure he could hear me. I applaud him. He's a good man. And I'm glad that Groucho had him in his life. And I'm glad that Groucho was in our life. And that's all I could say about that. One of my definite heroes. So I wanted to thank everybody that listens. This is the Mean Machine Radio Show live from the Great Garden State right here at 88.6 FM. I am Gregory Joseph, and you will be able to catch us anywhere. You could drop us a line. It's Gregory Joseph at meanmachineradio.com. We have all of the different, we've got TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, Amazon. We're everywhere. Of course, our YouTube channel, the Mean Machine Radio Show, and you can find us on Twitter, X, and of course, the Gregory Joseph at meanmachineradio.com. You will catch this and other interviews that we have as we continue on with season 2. And it just seems like we just top the next person after the next and after the next. But this was an important one to me. So I, once again, not to be repetitive, but I have to be, a special thanks from me, the Mean Machine, Gregory Joseph, to Steve Stoliar, spending time in his life to talk to me, to talk to us. It meant a lot to me. And I hope he knows that. All right. So once again, take care, say a prayer. And if you can't be good, be mean. This is and has been the Mean Machine Radio Show. We will see you and talk to you very soon. Good night, everybody.
Okay, let's go.
Tune in to the Mean Machine Radio Show with Gregory Joseph on New Jersey, 88.6 WGAT. Your ultimate destination for real people, real life, and pop culture discussion.
Who you are, like who is Julie Martin? The floor is yours.
So, Julie Martin is currently 53. She lives in London. She has a daughter of 23 and a son of 19. And she was married for 22 years to